Hey there, it's Kelly from the Field Trip Academy. Every month in our membership, we give families just like yours easy science excursions that actually spark curiosity, even in those hard to reach teens and tweens. Today's field trip is one of our favorites. Join us outside and learn something cool. Hi, this is Kelly, and I am going to teach you how to identify flowers, wildflowers, right in your backyard or in your neighborhood using the patterns method. I had no idea until this year that I could use patterns to identify what kind of flower I was seeing out in the wild. And I got to tell you, this has changed the game for me. Instead of relying exclusively on the CGAP, which we're also going to talk a little bit about in this module, I can go out and I can reliably identify 7 different kinds of wildflowers using this very simple method. Now, this is not my method. I did not make it up. I got it from this book called Botany in a Day by Thomas Elpel. I'll link it in lots of different places in the module for you. And this is probably my favorite book I found this year. Inside, it tells you all the ways you can identify not just these families, but multiple different kinds of plant families. And it gives you lots of sketches, both color and line drawings, and tons of information. So if you are interested in going further, I would highly encourage you to get a copy of Botany in a Day. And if this particular book's not in your budget, or if you're not that interested, I've also linked a really informative article that goes greater into depth about these 7 groups of flowers we're going to be talking about today in the family lesson. And just so you know, all of the graphics that are going to be showing up behind me in this video are directly from the resource that I've created for you to take out into the field. The resource is designed to be printed and then cut in half and kind of stapled together like a mini booklet. Hopefully it helps you when you're in the field trying to identify wildflowers that you see. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to see in the resource, and the first thing you really kind of need to be aware of, is what are the basic parts of a flower. You can see this diagram just shows you the basics. Feel free to refer back to this if you just need basic vocabulary about what the parts of a flower are. Also in this module, I'm linking to an at-home activity where you can dissect a flower and look more closely at these parts. And you might have already done it if you were here for the Spring Bud Burst module, but just in case you didn't get around to it, it's an excellent lab that Sue created, and I'll link it in the at-home activities section. All right, let's get started. This is one of the most basic wildflowers you're going to see out there. I know in my area, a lot of people refer to this more as a weed because it is a non-native invasive, but a mustard is a wildflower, and these are the 3 ways that you can identify it. First off, it's got 4 petals. So you can count that right here in this picture, 4 petals, right? 4 petals. And also in this variety over here, you can see 4 petals that are white. Next off is 4 sepals. You can see it right here in this section. Let me see if I can zoom in for you here. Okay, if you zoom in real far, you can see the 4 petals. And then these look like petals, but they're not. And sometimes flowers' sepals will look like petals, and sometimes they will look not more like the traditional green. But these are the sepals of this mustard variety. And lastly, it's the stamens. And on the mustard wildflowers, you'll see 6 stamens in total, 2 tall and 4 short. We can zoom in and see it kind of in this one. You'll see 4 stamens here, and then this is a stamen and this is a stamen. Those are the tall ones. It's not super clear, but when you're looking at them in person, it's actually much more obvious. You can see the 2 tall and 4 short stamens on the mustard flower. So the next family we're going to talk about is the mint family, and there are 3 characteristics that you can look for when you're trying to see if a plant is a mint in the mint family or not. You'll notice the very distinctive square stem. Oftentimes it's best to just kind of feel it, and you'll feel it really does feel like a square kind of column going up on the stem. Next are opposite leaves, and opposite leaves kind of look like this. They are opposite, and then the next one goes opposite. They're kind of like at 90-degree angles to each other, and it's pretty obvious when you look at that is opposite leaves. And the last thing about a mint family is they're often aromatic. They smell minty, so you can crush the leaves and see if they smell aromatic, and you'll be kind of led to believe that that is in fact a member of the mint family. So next is the parsley or carrot family. And in this family, we're going to see something called umbels. What is an umbel? An umbel is a structure that, in my mind, looks a lot like the wire structure of a traditional umbrella. And I sort of remember it by umbel, umbrella. That's my little mnemonic that I use to remember an umbel. And in this family of wildflowers, it's compound, which means the larger structure is an umbel, and then the smaller structures here are also umbel-like in structure. You can see the smaller ones better on this photo, and you can see the larger umbel structure on this photo. The stems in the parsley or carrot family are usually hollow, and then to be fair, although parsley and carrots are definitely edible, quite frankly, some of the wildflowers and the plants in this category are poisonous, so never eat this particular family of flower, or really any flower, unless you're absolutely certain down to the species what exactly the species is, and making sure that you know if it's poisonous or not. I'm sure that goes without saying, but just a reminder, don't eat anything that you don't know if it's poisonous or not. All right, the next family is the pea family. And the thing that I think that sticks out for me on the pea family is the irregular flowers. And in the Botany in a Day book, Thomas Elpel calls this the banner, keel, and wings. So this is a banner part of the flower, this is the wings part of the flower, and this is the keel part of the flower. But really, for me, I just look at it, and if they look irregular, and if all these other things fit, then I know it's probably a pea family. Obviously, pea family flowers have pea-like pods. They're not necessarily exactly like the kind you'll see in your garden, but they do have that structure to them. The leaves on a pea family plant are often pinnate, which means they have a large leaf that has smaller leaves branching off of the stem of that larger leaf. You can look up pinnate leaf and see a picture of what that looks like. And then surprisingly, clover is in this family, and you can kind of see that irregular flower if you look really close at a clover flower. The individual, maybe we'll call them petals. It looks like they're individual petals, but they're not. They're actually individual flowers that are clustered on this flower head. Isn't that cool? So take a magnifying lens out with you in the field, and if you can find a clover, you'll be able to see that irregular flower on the clover plant. Next up is the lily family. Now, I think personally that these are pretty easy to identify, and the two main things that you will be able to look for are that the flowers have parts in threes, and the sepals and petals are identical. So if you look at the flower here, you can see they've got 3 stamens and 3 stamens on each side. You'll see that it has 3 petals, and then they look like petals, but they're not. They're sepals. They're actually sepals that are layered below the petals. So parts in threes, and the sepals and petals are identical in the lily family. Next up is the mallow family, and mallow is also a pretty easy one to identify from its flower. They have 5 separate petals, and then the middle, the stamen, is unusual because it's a cluster. It's a column of stamens rather than individual stamens that appear to be on like stalks or stems. These appear to be a cluster. I'll zoom in there for you on that. That's the stamen of a mallow family plant. And then if you crush the flowers or the leaves of a plant that's in the mallow family, they're like slimy and mucousy, and that's another identifier for the mallow family. Next up is asters. Asters, or sunflower family, they're all over, and it's actually interesting because they range from really small, like asters, that a lot of them are native in my area. They are very tiny, maybe like an inch or less for the flower, to really big sunflowers, which are also a member of this family. So here are the two main things you're looking for when you're looking at the aster and sunflower family. First off, the flowers are composite flowers. So they're like a big flowers made up of little flowers, and they have disc-like heads. So if you look closely at any of a member of the aster family, close up in the head, you'll see that the things that might look to us like stamens or pistils are actually little flowers. And then the other thing to know is sunflowers are in this family, as are dandelions. So all right, again, that's the 7th family in our wildflower family identification. Again, I'm going to tell you that all of these concepts come from Botany in a Day, and I've linked a link to the book and to an article that just talks about these wildflower families more in depth. So if you have older learners or you're really interested, I would suggest that you also take advantage of one or both of those resources as you dive deeper into identifying not just wildflowers, but other plant families using the patterns method. Next up, you're going to go out, take your field trip, and either use the patterns method cards that I made for you, or you can use the C-Gap to take your field trip. Thanks for watching, and for more science that your middle schooler will actually enjoy without you having to spend hours prepping, check out our free resource, Backyard Science Labs, 5 outdoor activities for tweens and teens. We've linked it for you below. And if you want more field trips, citizen science, and hands-on activities, you can find all of that done for you in our monthly Field Trip Science membership. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and even share it with another educator friend who needs a win this week. Thanks for watching and happy field tripping!